keeping you company this Ramadan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Najma Khota, and a very, very warm welcome to Mid-Morning Talk in this special Ramadan edition 1445. We've come to the fourth edition, alhamdulillah, of this program every Tuesdays between 11 and 1. And in it, as you know, if you have been following the program with us, we've had the series on the great empires of Muslim empires, and we focused specifically on the Ottoman and Mughal empires. We covered the Mughal in 2 episodes, Ottoman in 2 episodes. Last week we started with the Mughal, and today is part 2 of the Mughal Empire, inshallah, as we start off with our guest who's been with us for the entire series, Brother Hassen Valley, who is a self-published author. And then, of course, building on that is the series on the Ashara Mubashara, Sayyidina Sa'id bin Abi Waqas, Sayyidina Sa'id bin Zayd, Sayyidina Abu Ubaidah bin Al-Jarrah, radiallahu anhuma, are the final 3 that we're focusing on the Ashara Mubashara series. And then today we have a special broadcast regarding zakah, and zakah is in focus with SANSEF, zakatable assets, we speak about with Feiruz Muhammad. I will be in conversation with her. She is the national chairperson of National Zakah Fund. And then, of course, the competition follows. You know what we've done in the last few weeks. It's been 2 contestants answering 5 questions within a 60-second time frame. The winner, of course, stands in line to win the 1,000 rands, which goes into the competition, into the prize at the end, inshallah. So as we start our program, inshallah, after this, we're joined by our very special guest, Brother Hassen Valley.
Assalamu alaikum. Am I waiting to be introduced or am I online?
Yeah, I was waiting for our introduction, monologue done, and then going into the first interview. All right. Well, nonetheless, the Renaissance in Europe is a well-known event, but many do not know that.
Captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031-208-9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education, from books to files to rulers. In fact, any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
Abu Hurairah narrated that he heard the Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, say, "In black seed there is a healing for every disease except death." This Ramadan, experience the health benefits of this ancient blessed seed by using the Tib Black Seed range. Black seed assists the body to boost immunity, regulate blood sugar levels, reduce inflammation, and act as a potent antioxidant. Experience a holistic approach to health by introducing the Tib Black Seed range into your Ramadan routine. Available in capsules, pure cold-pressed oil, and a vapor rub. Trust Tib Health Sciences for quality black seed products. For more information, visit blackseed.co.za. Available at leading pharmacies.
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
We're back. Jazakallah khair for staying with us and being patient. We had, once again, a technical problem. So I just hope that my technical team is going to be on their toes and feet so that we can have a trouble-free and welcoming program for our viewers, inshallah, and of course, those that are tuned in audibly. So we close the series today on the Ottoman and Mughal empires, two of the most powerful empires in history. Their success is attributed to their discipline and faith, built on the sterling example of the illustrious companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And today we also conclude the series on the 10 companions who were given glad tidings of Jannah. And we see that Muslim empires, and specific to the empires that we featured on our series, that is the Ottoman and Mughal, the objective of the series is to highlight their success as Muslim rulers, importantly to reflect on their legacy that lives on to this day. So, and to do this with us is once again, may I introduce Brother Hassen Valley. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Hassen, and welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
To follow on from last week, I know that we tried, and I must mention that we've tried very hard to put in as much as possible in terms of information. There's a lot to cover, but it's just been, history is framed according to the context of the narrative, and we've tried our level best to bring in as much as possible in terms of education and information as such. So when we follow through with the the Mughal Empire and the succession of rulers, then we know that the succession started with Babur, Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, and Aurangzeb. So how do Mughals continue to shape India today, Brother Hassan?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think we must say shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that everything works on its qadr. So whatever delay there is part of that system. We look at the Mughal Empire, and I think it's more important today than it ever was because there's a playback and there's a lot of things that's happening there. The vibration of the Mughal Empire is now causing a lot of issues to people that don't understand the contributions that Islam and the Mughal Empire made to the whole territory and even the world at large. So we look at the Mughal Empire, right? They were great patrons of art, architecture, literature, creating a very distinctive culture, and that brought about a fusion. This legacy is evident in India's architectural marvel, like the Taj Mahal, the fort, and even the palaces. But there's something that we always see every day. It's on our tongues. It's the Mughal cuisine, known for its rich use of spices, nuts, dairy products, remains as an integral part of the Indian culinary traditions that is experienced and shared throughout the world. So Mughal Empire is no stranger. It is still, either it's on our tables, it's on our mosaic, it's on our carpet, it's on our paintings, it's on our walls, but it's there, its existence. What is it? What is so important about the Mughal Empire? First thing first is that we must appreciate about the religious tolerance and integration. Now, the Muslim dynasty and the Mughals did not forcibly convert people to Islam. The rule acted as a deterrent against anti-Islam movements in whatever subcontinent they were. So today, it's a feeble excuse to create friction and tension, saying that. I mean, one asks a very good question. After the Mughals were defeated or they left India and the British came in, people were at work to return back to whatever faith they were, but there was never, ever a mass re-movement back to their faith. People were contented, they were happy, and they felt liberated. And this is how Islam carried on in the world. Up to today, there are millions of people entering Islam, and we can see the example of the Mughal Empire, no force. Right, so what happens now? Let's look at the tolerance today. In Indo-Pakistan culture, which emerged, incorporated an indigenous element alongside the Muslim Islamic practice. Now let's look at it. What did the Muslims come in? First thing they did, they took over. There was state building and there was governance. And this is very important. A Muslim dynasty, and we talk about state building and governance, the Mughal Empire established a very efficient and a centralized administration. And that's important because they took over a country, there was nothing, they brought in. And when the centralized administration is efficient, then who benefits? The people. And to able to run that centralized administration, it needs the people from the ground. So the same people that who may feel they were conquered, they were given an opportunity now. They were liberated. They could become part of the governance of their own country. And the Mughals were there, but the people took an active part. And this is something that we find that history fails to recognize, depending who writes it again. So the Mughals established an efficient and centralized administration, the vast resources and complex network of personnel, and the empire of the expertise, and of course the human enterprise, and became the hub of the world coming together in India. How beautiful. Now, take an example. India is now under the Mughal Empire. We have the empires in Spain, we have the Turkish Empire, we have the empires in Africa. And what happens? People are migrating towards India with their expertise, and they are contributing to the development, and they're skilling the local people, and there is free movement. Take this now. This is not something what you read in the tourist book. So here's a traveler is coming in, he's leaving from boundary to boundary, and he comes now into crossing the mountains down Afghanistan, and he enters the beautiful India terrain. What does he see? Different people, different culture, different dress, but there's a language there. And a new language is given birth from Persian, from Hindu, from everything. We get the language of Urdu. So people are communicating. And then midday he hears the call of prayer. And he said, but it's so similar to the call of prayer that he heard in Spain, in Cordoba, and that he heard in Istanbul, and that he learned all around Africa. And there was a commonality. And then he goes into the marketplace, and there's a vibrant people from everywhere, different dresses. There's an Italian there. There's a person from China. There's everywhere. So everybody is trading there. So a new free trade opens up, and people are exchanging ideas and living, but not so shy away, because then you find in between the corners in the coffee shops, people are sitting and they're listening to the tales, and they are contributing and they are enriching their own culture. And then the students are coming from far and wide to embrace the legacy that we've got from the Mughal empires, Akbar and the others that came, the libraries that they opened up, the schools that they interacted. And then there was hospitals, and there were clinics. And then in the marketplace, there was homes where people come here and they were giving out free food for the poor and the needy. Where did all this charity come? Something new, new experience. These were not people that were conquering. These were people that were accommodating. So even in times of famine, India had a great amount of famine. And even in the times of famine, the Mughals set up the emergency services, like we see Muslims coming to Palestine, Gaza, everywhere, and assisting. Mughals already, it was in their custom. And one of the greatest things about the Islamic ruling was their waqf, the Awqaf, where they gave money towards the development, and everyone benefited, whether it was the rich, the poor, whether it was the scholar, whether it was the teacher, whether it was the priest, whether it was the farmer or the miller, everybody benefited from it. So there was a rich culture. And when you talk about from the cemented mosaic of diversity and enriched human intellect, that's what they brought. Everybody came with the diversity, but there was a rich human intellect where people could share ideas, and they were tolerant because they listened. Teachers were engaged with new ideas coming from all over. There was a Chinese scholar, there was a Hindu Brahmin priest, there was a Catholic, there was a person from the cottage of Hermitage, and there were people coming with all sorts of ideas, but there was a platform where they could share their ideas and they could enrich themselves. And what happens? The result is tolerance. Islam opened up the way for tolerance.
So is
So-
that why, is that what you're referring to as, when I ask about the golden age, why
This
was it
is-
known as the golden age of tolerance?
It's so much, but I mean, what we don't read. I mean, let me just give you more about. Do you know about Langar? That was something that started in India. It was called, there was free food for the poor every day, right? So you could go and get free food, right? Then there was the other golden empire where there was income support. Now, I mean, where do you get income support? You know the interest system. The banks where they borrow and you pay back. But yet they would give cash, or they would allocate land. Now, how does it help? Islam was not interested in leaving the legacy of poverty to the people. It wanted them to liberate themselves. It was a simple uh, paradigm, or what we call a proverb that the Prophet ﷺ used it. Rather, giving a person fish daily, rather give him the lion, let him fish. So land was given, allocated to the people. They could develop themselves and they could enrich themselves, and there was no need for them to beg anymore. So this is one way of eradicating poverty, is helping. Then there was free schools. Islam started schools. There was no such thing then. So from the work of they opened up schools, and scholars had possession, they could understand. And there was also, more important, there was this practice of freedom. Please, how do I define that? That everybody, according to their own law, could practice. There was no imposition of Islamic Sharia law on the people.
So we see this as a very common practice, of course, from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Sallallahu
Even when they went into Medina, the Jews that were there were given their freedom to practice their religion, and we see that progressing into all of the other leaders that followed. And we see when we covered the Ottoman Empire as well, that's exactly the Christians, the Jews, the people of the book all lived in harmony. And we see the tolerance to such an extreme that the Hagia Sophia, when Mehmed II
Look, yeah.
conquered Istanbul as it is known today, the mosque,
I think
the
we
church
lost
wasn't
the sound.
destroyed. Okay, I'm going to continue so we can pick up on that. All right. Can you hear me clearly now? You
Yes,
seem a
I
bit
can.
lost. Can you hear me?
You
I
made a
was
very
saying
good
that
point. Yeah,
the Hagia
yeah, I can hear.
Sophia wasn't destroyed. It was a church, and if you see today, when it was a museum, they covered with respect all of the holy, paintings of the church
I,
and converted to a mosque. And then now, as we move to the Mughal
look,
Empire,
you know what?
we see
Yeah.
the same thread in how they've managed to create this scene and living arrangement of tolerance, so much so that it brought about peace,
Look,
reconciliation.
you know
Everyone
what you are
built
saying
the
is so
empire
true, because
together.
it's not a practice that was
Can you
only
hear
limited.
me,
Yeah.
Hassan? Can you hear me? Can you
I
hear
can
me?
hear you. I can hear you, but I think
Okay.
that I'm not. Yeah, I can hear you
Okay.
very
So
clear.
no,
I
as
heard
I
you.
was
Can I
saying
continue now?
that's yes, yes. So as I was saying that this is what we trying to get the understanding of their success. So in terms of, for example, when we talk about the conquering and the military power, then what was the strength of, and what was it that made them so successful? And I know we I'm covering both today because I want to round up with both, but of course you can expand on the Mughal aspect as we move along. But what was it, do you think, that led to their success of these armies that was so different from the Persian, from the Roman and the Byzantine armies? What was it that was so different about these soldiers? It was, of course, their
All
discipline
right.
and their
Very.
faith.
I know, but I mean, let's put more deeper into that. Look, you mentioned that you look. Alexander the Great was a great leader, right? He started from where he ended up on the other side. He only lived up to the age of 34, and he died very differently. And I mean, there's a whole legacy there. The Roman Empire along, but what did they do? They enslaved wherever they went, right? They may have enriched the people, but it was all that they benefit from. There were the beautiful arenas that they built for people where they could have human beings testing one another. So everything, their soldiers were on hire. That's a difference. On hire, they were paid. They could loot, right? They take now when Islam sends out, right, the soldiers are committed to a higher cause, right? And the cause is for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you say that disciplined, so already they have to work within the perimeter. Yeah, they will have to work within the perimeter of Islam. And what is that perimeter? That you fight combatants, right? Those that are engaging with you. Women and children are not a price. You don't what it comes to, you don't bring a scorched earth policy where you destroy their livelihood and everything else. Now, there's a very important thing I think we must realize. When Genghis Khan's grandson became a Muslim and he told his people, go and pillage, do what we did. But remember tomorrow what you're going to do. Because once you destroy the farm and the people and all that, remember they are also human beings. They also have to eat. And when you take all the way there, where are you going to get your food? So rather sustain that, preserve that, and live in peace with the people. So when you're moving with your forces, you know there is always a place you can come in. This was Islam. The beauty part of Islam is that the soldiers were not on hire.
Right. And also their faith is what drove them.
Their faith,
All right.
there's no question. I mean,
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
when you do the 10 that you are doing, Ashra Mubashara, I mean, they were leaders, right? And they were disciplined. So Islam, please, this is very important. And history has proven this. The Muslims never won battles in a number game. They were never majority. Most of the battles that they were always the minority. And this is very important. And this is very important. That
right. After the break, we continue with our guest on the Mughal Empire.
Ashraful Aid's Zakat distribution is carefully overseen by external boards which ensure its transparency and trust. Make a difference to those who really need it. Join us today to spread hope and compassion to those who need it most. Visit our website at www.ashrafulaid.org.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education, from books to files to rulers. In fact, any any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
Ramadan, a month to go beyond our ordinary, praying more, giving more, connecting more. Join African Muslims Agency to feed the fasting for 110 Rand per day. Provide a grocery hamper for 1,600 per month and feed a village or camp for 17,000 Rand per day. Every donation goes beyond just food and water. It transforms lives, empowers communities, and brings the spirit of Ramadan to thousands in need. Together, we can bring hope to families in Gaza, South Africa, Mozambique, and 18 other countries. This Ramadan, go beyond with AMA for a better world.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031-208-9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Emergivac is proud to announce the launch of South Africa's first and only fully Sharia-compliant emergency medical takaful and wellness plan. In the event of a medical emergency, Emergivac Sharia will evacuate you to the nearest private hospital and put up a hospital admission guarantee of up to 250,000 Rand for an individual or 575,000 Rand for a family to cover you for any in-hospital expenses. At Emergivac Sharia, we do not believe your wealth should determine your health. Simply download the Emergivac app and register online or SMS Sharia to 40777. Emergivac Sharia, for when serious emergencies require seriously fast response.
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
The timeline of the rulers of Mughal Empire is 200 years in which they dominated India from the year 1526 CE and 1857. This is our humble attempt to highlight what the reason was for their success. And my guest has illustrated many examples of their education and, of course, most importantly, holding on to the teachings of Islam and led by Muslim rulers. What we also find incredibly amazing is that, in the city, they were almost equal to their subjects, which is extraordinary. If you look at, for example, the Agra fort, the scale of the Agra fort, even if you see it today, was to show power. And that power came along with a lot of humility and education and teaching and learning from each other. Last week, my guest even mentioned that the emperor sat with different faith groups in order to learn. So when we move on to what that influence has continued to shape, and what are the changes they brought to India, and how has it changed? How has their influence continued to shape India? Hassen?
I'm with you. When you talk about power, right? The Mughals never exhibited their power to put fear into the people, right? So there was always beautiful architecture to embrace with the landscape and everything else. It's a difference. There was never power to say that, stay in line, fear us. That's what
No,
you
but
talk
it
about
was more in
the
terms of
market.
their military power. Yeah. More, excuse me, it was more in terms of their military power. Yeah.
Yeah. But even in the military power too, their military power had humility, right? It never went out killing and disarming, dismembering
Correct.
people, right? So there was something beautiful about it. And I mean, it's like, what they would do in the military power, first they would have a individual combat, right? So one of the leaders from this side would meet somebody from this side, right? It was more like a booster for the both sides, a moral booster. And the Muslims would go in fearlessly, strong, and they would defeat the enemy. And this is what they would do. So they always gave them a chance to say, listen, we don't want to murder you or kill you. We want you to capitulate. But that's not all the time. But many times you find that Muslims didn't need to use their power. But let's go in more deeper. There's so much richness in. Let's look at the territorial reach, right? The territorial reach is very important, right? At its zenith, the Mughal Empire extended from Afghanistan to the Bay of Bengal, right? And it went southward to the present-day Gujarat and the northern Deccan regions of India. Now the question, beyond the geographical territory, the landscape of Islam was what? How did they embrace the landscape of Islam? Through the Muslimness that attracted the otherness into a unity unknown in the world of master-slave. There was a world of master-slave that was going on all over, right? You had the feudal system. You had the Romans had their slaves, and they were using them to exhibit their strength in these arenas that they built everywhere. They were treated like animals, lions being set upon. But in Islam, the colonial imperials that went and continued this exploitation when they came into India. But with Islam, there was that relative freedom. People were free to move and engage. There's a saying that when the Islamic power was in its height, a woman could travel from the bottom of Yemen right through up without being accosted. That meant how safe the roads were.
Correct.
But
Right.
that was one. Now, let's look at the material progress, which is part of it. The Mughals significantly influenced India's material progress, which India is up to today enjoying. The architectural achievement, which you mentioned and you alluded so beautifully, the trade networks, the economic prosperity left indelible marks on the whole subcontinent. The world came east. That was the beauty. East India didn't go west. The people of the west didn't. They rather came to east to trade and, of course, to exploit, to subjugate and also to learn, to enrich the other, to implant the cancer that has eaten away the humanity and unfortunately left conflicts that are emerging, and they are emerging up to today. For example, the British made sure they left the bone of contention in Kashmir and has never been resolved. Like we had in South Africa, the apartheid, or in Zimbabwe, Rhodesia was left by the British. So this
Okay.
is something that the world remembers. It's important in today's history. That's a lesson we must take. Muslims
Yeah.
never left any contention. Anything you want to add to that, my dear? You were saying something?
No, I just wanted to add to the fact that we have, socially and, culturally, there's been an enrichment in terms of the
Oh,
landscape
yes.
and of course the what you've mentioned materially, etc., etc. So again, in conclusion, let us draw, as I've said, the inspiration from this leadership. And this, of course, it just doesn't come from anywhere. I've said this so many times. It's built on what Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has taught, in his sunnah and example as a commander in his armies and the conquerors that followed. So let us conclude this wonderful series, inshallah, in our humble attempt to try and bring in the information and revive what we feel is lost in history. And a lot of it is lost in history, but also we learn our lessons from history. But we need to fill that void that sometimes we feel in terms of where are we as Muslims,
Look, it's very
and
unfortunate. Uh, am I? Because yeah.
no, go ahead, it's fine. We're running out of time, so you can go ahead.
Look, it's very yeah, I know, and unfortunate because this is what happens when you do it. But I mean, this is important. More than leaving a proud legacy behind, we have to leave a reminder of the errors that we are doing today. And I think this is very important about India. Today, India's democracy is under the spotlight. Very important. The inability of the legal system, the law, the police, the indoctrination of the educated system, like Hitler did with the brown shirts in Germany, the hate that they are creating among the people, like the Jews had experienced. There's a new phase of Hindu nationalism, a culture of apartheid and separateness, the use of class, caste, religion, religious, and populism, which is very bad because that is what the parties are using, the ordinary people. They are creating this. So the Muslims are the ones who are getting the brunt. They can't pray. The women are being, the niqab has been stripped off. The places of worship have been violated. So this is something that is coming. And as a metaphor to ignite another human disaster, we can ignore and dehumanize the Mughal contribution, but we can't forget the legacy that they left. That there was a period
Absolutely.
in history, and I mean, this came out, yeah, even among the present day Hindu scholars said that, you know what, the Taj Mahal is like a legacy of slave serfdom. How can they? When the Taj Mahal stands there as a mighty reminder of the harmony that was there during the Mughal Empire. And the world comes to see it. And say,
Oh, your connection has
and
just
remember, it was built from the people of India. They were the artisans. You know, that's important. So let me conclude. The Mughals brought many changes to India. They centralized the government and brought together many smaller kingdoms. Remember, there were many Rajas in India, they were exploiting their own people. They delegated governments with respect for human rights.
the picture is freezing again, and it's just so
And the period of
unfortunate. Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah.
For some reason, your connection is
and the
freezing.
periods of
So
great religious tolerance. I don't know what will happen. Thank you.
no, go ahead.
Are
Please
you
go
hearing
ahead.
me now?
Yes, your connection is freezing on your side, but it's okay. Finish what you were saying.
All right. So, are you all right? So, let's just end this off. That the periods of great religious tolerance continues to shape India's cultural, social, historical landscape. In summary, Muslim leaders during the Mughal rule left an enduring legacy, shaping India's history, its culture, its architecture, and their successes and challenges continue to resonate throughout the ages. Uh, so, as I said, the communalism is a political weapon. The British used Hindu-Muslim divide. They brought the British Raj and the Congress Party to hold power here. Is the clash that's putting each other and putting each other into a political hegemony. I hope
All
that
right.
the Muslims and the Hindus in India realize that they are one family, maybe of different religion, but they come from one family.
All
And I
right.
think, what we pray that we don't have another situation in the world where the legacy is lost. Thank you so much.
Ameen.
And I think, the rest is left to history. We'll leave it to history now.
Jazakallah
you.
khair. Thank you so
Assalamu
much for your
alaikum
time
wa
and
rahmatullah.
effort. Wa alaikum salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And in conclusion, on my side, I just want to say that the Renaissance in Europe is a well-known event, but many do not know that the precursor to it were the intellectual endeavors in Muslim Spain, Timbuktu, Iraq, Syria, and Egypt. While Cordova and Baghdad were in their resplendent glory in the 9th to 12th century CE, having institutions of higher learning with no comparison in the Western world, Europeans came flocking to learn at the feet of great Muslim scholars in all the fields of arts, sciences, and culture. They learned, translated great works into Latin, and then burnt the Islamic legacy, attributing inventions to their name. Thus was born the Renaissance. So this program, alhamdulillah, in its humble, very short effort and with the assistance of my very special guest, helps, I hope, to dispel some prevailing myths of how Islam came to spread to the four corners of the globe, not by the sword, but rather through Islam's pristine teachings and practices, brisk cultural and trade contact through the silk and spice trades, intermarriage through pious people that lived in hostile terrains, and voyages of discovery made by the first globetrotters and navigators. At times, invitations were extended by locals for assistance to restore their power, as happened in Spain. And through an armed response whenever an onslaught occurred, like in the Crusaders period. Slavery, while practiced in the time of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, came to be outlawed over time, and non-racialism was practiced as the norm. This equality that Islam preached and was practiced served as an attraction for persons who experience feudalism and oppression of any sort. While tribalism was outlawed by the Prophet ﷺ, it resurfaced in the 2nd century of the Hijrah and continues to dominate in many post-colonial independent Muslim and Arab states in the 21st century. During the recent past, Islam has become one of the fastest growing faiths in Europe and America, spreading through immigration and naturalization among prisoner communities and through a desirable set of good morals, values, and scruples as espoused in Islam. So we see that, very little, all of us are guilty of the fact that in South Africa, we have only studied perhaps the Prophet ﷺ's life and the four great Khalifs, radiallahu anhuma, who succeeded him. There is thus a void for many Muslims regarding what happened from the 1st century of Islam to the 15th, a period rich in many ways. So this humble effort in our Ramadan series 1444 is an effort compiling a very shortened overview of key events and is aimed at our viewers and listeners wanting to know more about the recent 14 centuries of Islam and the impact it has had on various communities and on the world history in general. So I can tell you one thing, in having done this research, I am inspired by learning so much more. I hope this program has done the same for you. When we come back, we invite our very special guest, Imam Zubair Zaid, on the Ashara Mubashara.